you continue to fight.
Absolutely. I believe that the courts do not have the children in mind when they are reeling their decisions and really stripping people of their livelihoods, of their life savings. No, granted, I didn't spend $100,000, but to me, when I have not worked and I stayed at home with my children and fighting for my children and getting my younger son diagnosed, that was a huge amount of money for me. And it was only by the grace of God, there it is, okay, here it is, and I would try to get representation.
You had a special needs child, did you not?
I do.
And so that's a unique set of circumstances that both parents really need to be involved in the, and I'm going to get in trouble again. When Bill O'Connell comes out here, or somebody, they're gonna probably lynch me. I don't know. It could happen. You might see, but isn't there also this situation where the courts want the two of you to continue battling, but sometimes, and there are, what can we say, assholes who are listening on both the male and the female perspective, and I'll tell you why. Because if someone gets more than 50-50 custody, then maybe they have to pay less child support. Do you think that sometimes plays into, in other words, child support creates conflict?
Absolutely. I think money is just a motivating factor across the board in any arena. It is, and that's a shame. We can't take the money issue out of it and just look at the fact that we're dealing with human beings here. We're not dealing with objects.
See, what I'm thinking that what's happened to you has happened to almost every single parent that does not have physical custody or does not have sole custody or full custody, that you may have visitation time, but the other parent often interferes with that. Have you found that to be the case?
Absolutely. My older son is 16 years old, and the court said that he's released from any visitation. The problem is, when I've tried to see my son and set things up with him, my ex-husband has denied me the time and said, you need to get me a copy of the documents. Well, it's not in the order, so I have to come up with money to get the transcript so I can see my older son.
Wouldn't that be called custodial interference? And I believe that that's against the law. As a matter of fact, it's a misdemeanor in New Mexico. But in talking to some of the district attorneys around the state of New Mexico, they say, oh, unless it's kidnapping, we're going to do nothing about it. But I believe that that's not what the legislature had in mind when they created this law. So if you're saying that if somebody interfered with your visitation, there was really no place for you to go.
Absolutely.
But if you missed a child support payment, or if there was anything involving money, the courts would probably, maybe I'm just second guessing, would bend over backwards in order to enforce that portion of any kind of agreement that the two of you might have had.
That's correct.
And don't you believe, let me ask you, don't you believe that the time that you have with your children, or any parent that is listening with their children, is something that is what we are in the business of protecting, the quality time between parent and child?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Now, I wanted to get more into your story, because I believe that you went before a new judge by the name of Judge Lavelle. If you were going to choose whether or not you should re-elect Judge Lavelle, would you do so? Would you cast your vote for Judge Lavelle, who was, I believe, just recently appointed? Well, let's not forget that Judge Lavelle is going to be running for judge in the upcoming election. And anybody that is listening, you've got to vote no to retain these incumbent judges, and you have to vote no if you have a choice between Judge Lavelle and somebody else that's running. Let's hold them accountable. Do you think that Judge Lavelle took the time to listen to what was going on in your case?
I believe he had his mind made up from the get-go.
How do you say that? And what leads you to believe that?
Because the orders that were in place, we went through a custody hearing. The orders that were in place, he did not acknowledge to the point of an order was made up. So my older son is not supposed to babysit my younger one, and it was dismissed.
What kind of a weird? Are these judges? Are they parents? What the hell are they doing? Don't they? I mean, one of the things that I think is just criminal in New Mexico is the fact that what child development training do these judges have? Tell me, what child psychology have any of these judges taken? You know? Can you look at his transcript? What does Lavelle know about parenting?
And he overruled a report, yes.
Are we electing these bums, these judicial bums, and I'm calling them bums because that's what they are, when they are not looking at issues, they're violating your rights, and let's talk about what else they have done. Apparently, you went out and hired an expert, your own psychologist, and you went through the court clinic.
Evaluation, correct.
And they had, the court psychologist had an evaluation about you. And in order to defend yourself, you were never allowed a copy of that report in order to know fully what was said and how you can defend yourself.
Partial results were released to the psychologist that I had hired, and that is it. And everything was favorable.
Now, I'm just trying to figure out what part of the federal HIPAA law did New Mexico have a special waiver which enables them to violate parent rights? Because this happens in the corrupt family court system in the 1st Judicial District under the auspices of Miss Herrera. I believe she is the wife of the deceased judge of the 1st Judicial District. This happened in my case too. I was not allowed, nor was I think the attorney might have been. But in other words, do you see how unfair it is? I mean, you've seen how unfair it is. So you were not able to defend yourself.
That's correct. That's correct. And still, my psychologist that I hired, she still got up there and she said that the report was favorable. But it just seemed like Judge Lavelle didn't even look at that and didn't throw the whole report out. So here I was.
Isn't that a slap in the face to the psychologists and the psychiatrists in New Mexico? That this judge does not care what you say. But I heard that some psychologists are like the lowest pay or the highest, they will come out in favor in some of these custody evaluations as if they are people that are sold to the highest dollar. But in your case, you had a psychologist who was going to, the importance is that that psychologist was going to provide evidence in your favor. And the judge, now this is how corrupt it is in New Mexico. Now, maybe I'm wrong. The judge would not let you present that evidence. Is that right?
That's correct, even though there was a court order.
What did Lavelle say? What did this weasel of a judge say?
He said that he has already determined that there's no psychology as far as myself, and he would not allow...
No psychology?
Psychology, right.
Is the guy nuts? Is he smoking the same thing that Judge Brennan had? Or snorting the same thing? What the hell? What kind of nonsense is that? So you had a reputable member of the psychology community in New Mexico say that, what the hell are you guys doing? Why are you denying this mother her quality time with her children?